Task is the new HBO crime drama miniseries created and written by Brad Ingelsby. Now, Brad's previous work includes films like Out of the Furnace, Run All Night, and The Way Back, and he's also the creator of one of my favorite television shows on HBO in recent memory by the name of Mayor of Easttown. Task is a story that follows a Philadelphia-based FBI agent who is put in charge of a task force to end a string of violent robberies undertaken by an unassuming family man. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. For years, I've covered just about every genre of television out there, from comedies to horror to everything in between, but one of my favorites is crime dramas, especially on Sunday nights on HBO. Today, we are here to cover the first episode of Task, which is titled Crossing. This premiere episode doesn't just introduce us to these new characters in a situation, but it paints this intimate portrait of men grappling with profound loss, fractured faith, and the desperate search in the meaning of this world is turned upside down. As we unravel the intricate threads of Tom and Robbie's lives and explore the stark parallels and the differences that define their existence. Sit back and enjoy as I break down each scene and detail my thoughts of these characters and discuss this premiere episode. Spoilers ahead. We open in the calm and forest morning where we meet Tom. There's a hesitancy as he kneels attempting to pray in the morning. Has life's brutal hand left him convinced that prayer is no longer the answer? We get a shot of Tom's beautiful, well-kept house viewed from the outside, which to me suggests order, but appearances often are a fragile mask. Inside, we watch Tom's morning ritual, where we see him dumping ice into a sink and plunging his head into it, most likely a desperate attempt to shock himself awake, or potentially numb the pain, or simply endure. Later on in this episode, we see Tom taking a handful of Advil pills, which to me is another symptom of his body and mind under intense strain. To me, these moments aren't just discomfort for Tom, but it's a silent scream for relief. Now, in stark contrast, we're introduced to Robbie. Now, Robbie's house, while not bad, but not as well kept as Tom's, we see the overgrown yard and the rotting wood paneling. Taking note of both men's houses, you can notice again that one might have a better outside, but might be broken in the inside. We see Robbie, with a quiet sense of calm, moving a sleeping little boy from one bedroom to another as he tucks him in, sharing a tender moment. The subtle shots that we see in this opening sequence reveal a personal history. We see a tattoo on his back, which is dated 2/17/2023, and a matching date on the necklace in his car, confirming a profound loss, his brother Billy. Now, Robbie also has a tattoo on his neck, and it appears to be this Chinese symbol for forgiveness, which in my mind is a powerful signal hint at his eternal landscape and his eternal struggle. Is it for himself, for others, or for the circumstances that have shaped his life? It's within these opening scenes that we see the parallels of our two men. Tom, a special agent in the Philadelphia FBI division, seen on recruitment duty, struggles with a deep-seated weariness. Meanwhile, we see Robbie, who works as a waste collector, but his daily rounds serve as a dual purpose. With his friend Cliff, they discreetly scout a particular house, noting its telltale signs of drug activity as we see the bottles of pills. Now, as night falls, while Tom seeks oblivion and alcohol, Robbie and Cliff load a gun, preparing for a hit on the same trap house. Next morning, we see Tom in the garden where we're introduced to his daughter by the name of Emily, who's in a rush to go to school. Now, granted, she's off to school and didn't want to be late, but there seemed to be some unspoken tension and disconnect between the two, something that we learn a little bit more about later in the episode. Now, Robbie and Cliff talk about owning an island one day, and the conversation shows us that their day-to-day life shapes their thoughts.
Who picks up your trash?
Your trash?
Cliff talks about how he is thinking about taking care of trash. Who takes the trash when you're living on an island? Where Robbie says that that's something you don't think about, but instead you enjoy the life and the lifestyle you have. Robbie asks Cliff if he ever tried online dating, which he said he has, and it wasn't the best experience for him. As Robbie responds by saying he thinks that he's ready to share his life again with someone. Robbie needs a life companion, as he puts it, as he mentions that it's been over a year since Karen left. We see Tom at his table again, using some binoculars to look around as he's introduced to Kyle. Kyle has recently graduated with a degree in accounting, which he believes doesn't line up with being an FBI agent, as we get some information on Tom's background. We learn that Tom was a former priest of 8 years and his major was philosophy. A career trajectory that begs the question, what event would lead a man of spiritual guidance to trade the pulpit for handcuffs? We see Cliff and Robbie making their rounds and scouting the same house again, and knowing that the people inside have been busy lately as Robbie sets his sights on making a move that night before the money moves. As Robbie and Cliff recruit Peaches for the hit as he talks about recently finding love. Back with Tom, we see him looking over some legal documents that detail an incident involving manslaughter and unlawful assault on May 17th of 2023. The person involved will be sentenced from anywhere between 5 to 15 years, as Tom says that he doesn't want to make a statement in this case. Now, Tom's daughter, Emily, is mentioned in this conversation about speaking on behalf of her brother. We are now starting to get a better understanding of the interaction between Tom and his daughter from earlier, as it appears that they lost their son Ethan in a crime. It's here that I assume that he died, and the loss explains why she wasn't interested in having a conversation with her dad, nor was she interested in him making dinner because of the loss that they've both experienced. This loss may explain Tom's struggle in prayer as well, more on Ethan's situation a little bit later. From a broken home into one that seems somewhat more stable, at least from the kids' perspective, as we see Robbie's kids are happy that he's home, but they're also happy to see Cliff, who they call Uncle Trash. It's here that we're introduced to Robbie's niece, Maeve, as little Wyatt upsets Maeve by calling the dinner that she made for everyone dog food. It's pretty clear that Maeve has taken on more responsibility since Karen has left and since Billy's death, who we later find out is her father. Now again, I want to talk about the parallels that we have going on in this episode so far. Both men are grieving, both are driven by family, and both are trying to navigate a world that has stolen something irreplaceable. But their coping mechanisms can't be more different. Tom draws his pain in alcohol, withdrawing from his remaining family, while Robbie charges into a life of crime, while it might not be one of menace, but a desperation, albeit misguided attempt to provide an escape for his. One man is tasked with withholding the law, and the other is breaking it. The irony is stark. Now, Tom goes to see Emily at work to discuss the conversation he had with the lawyer about the case, and if Emily will be willing to make a statement. Now, Emily isn't ready yet to make a statement, which in my mind, if she needs to make a statement, that means that she must have been there when the situation occurred. Now, back with Robbie, we see photos of him with the same man seen in the necklace in his car and on the tattoo on his back. As I stated earlier, this is Uncle Billy. As Robbie tells his kids about a story of him and Billy about them riding the dragon into a new kingdom. Robbie tells little Wyatt that Uncle Billy is in their hearts and will always live with them. I'm starting to wonder if Billy died doing something that Robbie does in robbing trap houses. Now here we get some possible foreshadowing as Robbie lies to Maeve about what he's going to be doing the rest of the night with Cliff, as she mentions to him that he better not come home with a DUI, and we see him responding by saying, "They'll never catch me," because he knows the back roads like the back of his hand. To me, that seemed like a line to remember for future episodes. Now, like earlier, we watch as both men prepare for their evening. Tom, yet again, is getting hammered while Robbie gets his gear for tonight's hit. Tom using alcohol to mask his pain, while Robbie's using crime to occupy his mind and robbing for money as means to escape and provide for his family. Again, I can't help but to make this point in this way that both men have gone to crime in some way, where again, one stopping crime while the other one's committed it. Now in the car, Peaches questions the choice of music as Robbie tells him it's transportative. Music that takes you away from your reality into another, as Robbie describes Peaches on a beach and not having a care in the world. Earlier in the episode, Robbie talked about having an island, and now he's talking about a beach. I'm starting to see what Robbie's dreams are, and one day escaping to this life of crime and being free with his family. But the question is, will his life decisions aid in this dream, or only be kept as just that, a dream that can never be fulfilled? We watch as Robbie does a ritual from his childhood that he would do with his now deceased brother. From jumping into the freezing water to robbing a trap house, this is a calming ritual for him, but also makes me think that he's thinking of his brother and that he's always having a reminder that his brother's always with him.
You take some water, you put it on both your shoulders. Your body gets used to the temperature and your heart slows, so it don't explode.
Now we see the trio wearing their masks. We have Cliff wearing a devil mask, we have Peaches wearing a werewolf mask, and Robbie's wearing a skeleton mask. Maybe more symbolic foreshadowing the death that hovers around their chosen path. Now after scouting this house, it's time to get the money. We see them tie up one of the men and beat the other one up until they find what they're looking for, which is the money. We see Robbie eventually finds the money and they seamlessly walk out, and we're assuming that they didn't kill these men inside, which is something to keep in mind for what happens in their next hit later in the episode. Now, Robbie's actions have consequences. The next morning, as a hungover Tom is called into the office, we're introduced to a superior by the name of Kathleen, who is facing retirement soon and reveals the gravity of the situation. A task force is needed because of the surge of targeted home invasions in particularly drug houses. So far, there have been 9 hits and 7 of them belonging to the notoriously violent Dark Hearts, which is a motorcycle gang. These robberies have resulted in a brutal retaliation threatening to unleash an all-out turf war. And it is up to Tom, the former priest, the grieving father, who is reluctantly thrust back into the field. Now this will be a 4-week job where Tom will be getting state trooper by the name of Elizabeth. He'll also be getting a detective by the name of Emilia and a CD by the name of Anthony. Not the A team that Tom was looking for, but due to budget cuts, this is the best team that they can put together. As Tom arrives to their headquarters, which is a busted up old trap house in the middle of nowhere. Now on the other side of town, we watch as Peaches, Robbie, and Cliff are celebrating after pulling off the successful hit job. Right now, it appears that Robbie's on the come up as we see Tom, meanwhile, is meticulously cleaning up this house, a man utterly at his rock bottom. Tom has been thrown into this mess, tasked with finding and stopping Robbie and his crew. This juxtaposition is interesting to see play out. We have one man riding a wave of ill-given gains and the other man drowning in personal despair, now burdened with this mission. It really makes me wonder, how much longer can Robbie's recent luck truly last? Speaking of, we see Robbie getting a text message with a new lead for a hit. So Robbie's getting fed these houses to hit, which makes me wonder, who is his point person, and are they a criminal or are they in law enforcement? It's here we see Robbie and Cliff collecting the trash on their new target, but Cliff's got a bad feeling about this, but we see Robbie, driven by ambition and perhaps necessity, brushes aside his concerns, reminding Cliff that this is a targeted house that they've been waiting for a while. To me, Cliff's unease is a red flag, which is foreshadowing for the chaos to come later. We shift back to Tom, where he's confronted by the full weight of his personal tragedy. It's here we see him dropping off a suit for one of the inmates by the name of Ethan. That's right, the same Ethan that was mentioned earlier, his son, who isn't a victim, but instead, he was the one that committed the crime. Now, Ethan is facing upwards of 15 years in prison, a sentence that was probably lessened because his father is in the FBI. Yet, Tom refuses to see him, and he's here to just simply drop off the suit. For Tom, once again, a priest, now an FBI agent, this is a different type of loss. Loss of a son's freedom and future due to his own actions. This to me added so much more layers and depth and complexity to the Tom character, blending his personal duty with an almost unbearable personal grief. We cut to more home life of Robbie and his family, giving us a much needed glimpse into Maeve's world. As she's getting ready for a date, a desperate attempt to reclaim somewhat of a normal life that she once had and not have to worry about the constant demands of maintaining this household. Meanwhile, we see as Robbie is browsing some online dating websites, he goes down to Maeve's room to snag a joint and thinking that she won't be back for a while. But we see Maeve returns a little bit earlier than expected. As we watch Robbie hide in her closet as things start to get a little bit more intimate between Maeve and her date, we see him having to walk out of the closet, and this is where Maeve date started a fight, but we watch as Robbie eventually kicks him out. As Robbie attempts to apologize, this is where the floodgates are open. Here we learn that Robbie doesn't own this house. Instead, we learn that it was actually his brother's house who actually passed it down to his daughter Maeve. We learn that Robbie actually lost his house and Maeve was the one that welcomed him into her house, allowing him and the kids to stay. But we find out that Maeve is kind of at a breaking point after what happened tonight. She's exhausted, she's upset about losing her father, and tired of helping raise another woman's children. She's desperately looking for a way to kind of regain her own life. Now, in the heat of the conversation, we see Maeve brings up her father as she talks about how he used to lie to her when she was younger, as she is confronting Robbie, telling him that she knows what he does for work and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. As they continue to throw harsh words at one another, we see Maeve throws a drink into her uncle's face as we see Robbie is getting upset and he eventually tries to kick her out of her own house.
Pack up your shit and get out.
It's not your house, asshole!
It's not yours either! It's my brother's. My brother's.
Now, Maeve, however, doubts that he'll be able to manage without her, a doubt that has kept her tethered for this long. To me, this raw exchange reveals Robbie's dependency and crumbling instability of his domestic life, mirroring Tom's own broken home. As Robbie's daughter overhears everything, she begs Maeve to stay, highlighting the collateral damage for Robbie's choices. Now, back in Tom's world, we meet his new task force in person. Here we have Elizabeth, who is introduced in mid-argument on the phone, setting up a chaotic tone. Now here we have Emilia, who appears to have a thing about germs, as she has her wet wipes and hand sanitizer. This could mean that she's a meticulous investigator, potentially. And last but not least, we have Anthony, who seems unimpressed by the headquarters. First impressions are key. Elizabeth seems utterly unprepared. Her mind seems kind of elsewhere, dealing with whatever conversation she had on the phone about a recliner, and she clearly hasn't read the briefing yet. Meanwhile, we have Aaliyah and Anthony, who to me have like this level of being overqualified and perhaps even bored. This dynamic to me establishes this potential friction and possible comedic relief in this rather bleak tone of the show so far, even within the seriousness of the context of their mission. Now we get this little character moment where we see Tom has a thing for bird watching. He even has an app on his phone and he spots a bird out in the trees, but this bird watching is interrupted by the arrival of his friend, who's also a priest, who goes by the name of Father Daniel George. Now, for the first time in this entire episode, we see Tom laughing and smiling over dinner with Daniel that he brought over. Now, as the night goes on, we see Tom, who's now drunk, and here we see that disbelief in God I spoke of earlier as he mocks God's presence in the kitchen table.
Hello? Christ? Hello? Oh.
You must be taking a crap.
We see Father Daniel takes notice of Tom's heavy drinking and questions if him working on the task force is best. Now Tom dismisses his question as he takes off Daniel's collar and invites him to dance, telling him he's just a man as he blasts Wells Fargo, watch out. We later see Daniel helps Tom in bed as his daughter arrives to lend a hand. In this moment, I got a sense that this is a recurrence of Tom as he drinks his pain and feelings away with his alcohol. I would imagine that Tom's descent into alcoholism, fueled by his son's fate, adds nothing but stress to Emily's life, who's also dealing with her brother's case. Now, as we come to an end of this episode, we end on this very brutal and nail-biting sequence. Robbie and his crew move in for the hit on the house that they scouted earlier. Everything immediately goes sideways. We see a woman in the other room fights back, managing to pull off Peach's mask, seeing his face, and also biting Cliff. Now, Peaches loses his gun in this situation, and also, again, his identity is compromised. Now, the man in the house claims to have recognized Robbie's voice, which is just intensifying the stakes. As Robbie frantically searches for the money, another guy arrives. Now, Peaches, in a desperate act, tells Robbie he'll handle the situation as he takes Robbie's gun and performs Robbie's ritualistic gesture. As he walks towards the man, he is unfortunately shot and killed. We see Cliff signals Robbie to find the money and plays music as a distraction as he hides. Now the woman frees her boyfriend and all hell breaks loose. Now we see Cliff shoots and kills the man that killed Peaches as the other guy attacks Cliff. Now Robbie finds Peaches' gun that he lost and saves Cliff from the man that was attacking him, and then they ultimately kill the woman as well. Now, I do wonder, based on this interaction, was this their first time killing someone on one of their hit jobs? To me, the answer is yes, this is their first time killing someone on the job, judging by their shock, but also the desperation in their actions. Now, in the gruesome aftermath, we watch as Robbie takes Peach's wallet and phone. This could be simply taking the evidence that ties them to Peaches. Now, after leaving the dead bodies behind, we see them finding the money in a bag that belonged to one of the guys they shot by the name of Warren. Now, as they leave, a child, the son of the murdered couple, emerges from his bedroom asking if they are their dad's friends.
Yeah, where's friends?
Did you hear fireworks?
Yeah, we heard them too.
At this point, Robbie and Cliff have their masks off, so they are now compromised. But in a moment of humanity amidst the horror, we see Robbie blocks the child from going upstairs from seeing his dead parents. The next morning, Tom receives a call from Anthony about the multiple homicides. As he arrives to the scene, Elizabeth surprisingly is effective by interviewing the neighbors and learning about the child sleeping in the basement when he acts up, a detail that would prove critical. As our final scene delivers a gut punch of a cliffhanger, we see Cliff and Robbie arrive back at Robbie's house, exhausted and haunted, but not alone. With them is the murdered man's son, the child they encountered moments after killing his parents. This moment throws a massive, morally ambiguous wrench into everything. It makes you wonder why they took this little boy and what they intend to do with him, as it raises questions about their capacity of evil or perhaps a twisted form of responsibility or guilt. To me, I think it's safe to assume that Robbie decided to take the little boy with them because he saw their face and he doesn't want them to maybe give the police any information on what they look like. Now, overall, I thought this episode was a masterclass of building tension and really developing this world and the characters and exploring the raw vulnerabilities of the two main characters. Both Tom and Robbie are left in broken homes and their lives are spiraling, yet their paths are drawing closer together. The deaths, the lies, the personal losses all come together and setting the stage for an explosive continuation in the weeks ahead. Again, what will become of this little kid? How will Tom handle the growing body count and what will be on his conscience after killing these people, and has he done this before? And how much more longer can Robbie outrun the consequences of his actions? Other questions that come to mind in the weeks ahead: what demons are the other members of the task force hiding? What happened to Karen, and will she be in the picture at all? Will Peach's new girlfriend be questioned by the police? What happened to Tom's wife? Why wasn't she in the picture in this entire episode? What happened to Billy comes to mind, and also, who is the person that was giving Robbie the intel? These are all questions I look forward to learning in this series, and I'll be here to break it all down in the coming weeks. Now, as I said up top, I'm a huge fan of HBO Sunday nights and crime dramas, so if you would like me to continue to cover this show, and also if you enjoyed my breakdown of this episode of Task, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it in podcast, please consider liking this video and this breakdown. Also on YouTube, you can hit the hype button, which just pushes this video out to the algorithm. Also, share this video and this breakdown to all of your family and friends that are interested in the show, and more importantly, please leave your thoughts and your major takeaways from this episode in the comments below. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, consider subscribing to the channel and following me for more breakdowns like this. Or if you listen to this in podcast form, I would appreciate the follow as well. Don't forget, you all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next breakdown.